Hi, thank you so much for signing on to this information session. My name is Hillary, and I work in the Bureau of Public Affairs at the New York City Department of Sanitation. This presentation focuses on residential curbside composting, where it's available, what materials can and are required to be composted, and some best practices for managing your bin at home. If you have questions about school or business composting, you can go to our website for more information. All right, let's dive in. Great. So first, let's start with our rollout schedule. Service is currently available to all residential buildings in Brooklyn and Queens. This means any residential building in these boroughs is currently on a curbside composting collection route and can go ahead and start composting. The Bronx, Staten Island, and Manhattan are starting service later this year in October of 2024. Some buildings in the Bronx and Manhattan do currently have collection service from when they started in the sign-up model of service we had after the pandemic, but we won't be adding any new buildings in these boroughs until October when we go borough-wide. Some important updates for this rollout. Number one, all buildings can participate regardless of size, from single family to large multi-unit residential building. All residential buildings can participate. No need to sign up, no need to do anything extra. If you have trash and recycling collection from the department, you will be on a curbside composting route. So this means collection will be the same day as your recycling day. And this was a little challenging for folks in Brooklyn who, again, were part of that sign up model who had composting collection on a different day of the week than recycling collection. Now it'll be all on the same day, easy peasy. Lastly, the main update from this rollout is the new regulations in place regarding mandatory separation of composting from your trash. So first of all, let's talk about leaf and yard waste composting. For leaf and yard waste management, this rule goes into effect whenever composting service is available in your borough, meaning residents are required to separate leaf and yard waste from the trash and set it out for composting when curbside composting service becomes available. So this means that it's currently in effect in Brooklyn and Queens and will go into effect for the Bronx, Staten Island, and Manhattan in October of 2024. There is a 3-month warning period for residents to help everybody get started, get on board, get their logistics worked out before residents will be subjected to fines. So that means in Brooklyn and Queens, that is currently in effect as well. It's been 3 months since that service has been rolled out. This is currently being enforced, that leaf and yard waste composting are mandatory. Secondly, for other compostable items such as food waste and food soiled paper, this will also go into effect when curbside composting is available in your borough. So again, mandatory food waste and food soiled paper recycling is currently in effect for Brooklyn and Queens. However, the warning period for all boroughs will extend until the spring of 2025. And this is to give everybody a chance to get up to speed, get their composting best practices managed, and also to give us a chance to try to reach as many people as possible, share as much information as possible, to really get everybody up to speed and on the same page about composting. So like I said, food waste and yard waste composting are mandatory at the outset of when curbside composting becomes available. For yard waste, there will be a 3-month warning period, and for food waste and food soiled paper, the warning period will go through the spring of 2025. So with all of this, the big reason we're expanding is that we know containerizing our waste, specifically food waste, is effective and helpful in mitigating rodent activity and bringing down debris left on the sidewalk from ripped open bags. This program has major climate impacts. We're diverting waste from landfills and putting it to beneficial use, but it also has direct positive impacts on local cleanliness, both in and around your building and for your block and neighborhood. We're really excited to roll this out citywide and start seeing the benefits of containerizing this waste and also the many resources and uses we can create for this product. All right, so that's the why. Now let's get to the what. What to compost? Basically, anything from your yard, anything from your kitchen. For your yard, this includes plants, grass clippings, twigs, leaves, Christmas trees also, if you have them. For food waste, this includes anything from your kitchen, raw, cooked, leftover, forgotten in the back of the fridge, all of that is A-okay to go into your compost bin. Lastly, food soiled paper. This can be a trickier category since paper is recyclable. And what that means is we encourage all clean paper to go into your paper recycling bin. For example, if you have a pizza box and it's really cheesy, really greasy, and it doesn't look like it could ever become clean paper again, you can go ahead and put that in your compost bin. We're happy to take that in that bin. Some things that we don't want in your compost bin uh, are anything like pet waste, medical waste, or any kind of hygiene products. You can go ahead and continue to put those in your regular trash. Also, continue to put your normal recycling, your metal, glass, plastic, cartons, and clean paper in its respective recycling bins. All right, so we have the what and the why. Now let's talk about where it goes. This photo here is the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. If you participate in our composting program in Manhattan, the Bronx, most of Queens, and Brooklyn, your material goes to this facility here. We do have a couple other facilities that we send material to depending on where it's collected and the type of material. Like if you live on Staten Island, it would be going to the Staten Island compost facility. But this is the main hub of the Curbside Composting program. This facility is managed by DEP as it is a wastewater treatment plant. And what happens here is we mix the material with collected wastewater and anaerobically digest it. What this process does is turn that material into what we call biogas. Actually, anaerobic digestion is a similar process, anaerobic breakdown of to what would happen to your food scraps were they sent to a landfill. However, if you send your food scraps to a landfill, that biogas, which is mainly methane, gets released directly into the atmosphere, contributing to climate change. What we do at this facility is we capture that biogas, we purify it, and we use it as a substitute for natural gas. So not only are you making a resource out of your waste, but we are reducing our dependence on fossil fuels with it. This facility is really cool. Personally, I find it fascinating, and they do tours if you're interested in learning more. So yes, if you compost with us, odds are it's going to this facility here. I just want to briefly touch on the smart bins. I know this is mainly talking about curbside composting, but this is another option that folks have if, for example, curbside composting isn't available in their borough yet. And these are available citywide. We have 400 bins across the city. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for you to go ahead and drop your compost into that main door right there. And it does require an app to open it called the NYC Compost app. This is an app you can get from any app store that you're using, regardless of any kind of phone or smartphone that you have. It's free and you don't need internet access to open the bin. You just need a Bluetooth connection. And the reason we have the app isn't because we're trying to prevent people from using it. We absolutely want everyone to use it. These are open to the public, but we want to make sure that the material going in there is as clean of a stream as possible, meaning we want as much compost and as little contaminants as we can get in that bin. So the app is to make sure that if you're using this bin, you know it's for compost and not for other kinds of recyclables or trash. So I strongly recommend that everyone on this call download the NYC Compost app, check out where they are around the city. Even if there's not one near you, I strongly recommend downloading it because you never know when you're going to be walking around Midtown with a pizza crust or walking around the Upper East Side with apple core. So definitely download that and keep an eye out for a bin near you. All right, back to curbside composting. All right, so we went over the what, the how, the why. Now let's get to the how to set it out. Basically, how to get it from your house to our truck to the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant or its eventual final composting destination. So for leaf and yard waste, you have two options. You can either use a bin or a bag. If you're going to use a bin, you can use one of our DSNY brown bins, or you can use your own. This is a recent development with this rollout of service because in the past we've required residents to use brown bins, but now you can use any bin that you like. We just ask that it be under 55 gallons, that it's labeled as compost somehow, and that it's got a lid on it. The lid to keep the critters out, labeled so we know what it is, and under 55 gallons because our sanitation workers work very hard for us and we don't want to get anything too big and we don't want to harm them. So you can use either a DSNY brown bin or your own bin labeled. You can also use a bag if you want to use a paper bag or a clear plastic bag. Just don't use a black plastic trash bag because when our sanitation workers see that, they think it's trash. So if you went through the effort of sorting it, we want to make sure it goes to the right destination. So please use, if you're going to use a bag, a paper bag or a clear plastic bag. For branches and twigs, this rule has been in effect for a while. Again, no bigger than 2 feet by 4 feet if it can't fit in the bin or a bag. And we ask that you use twine just so we can compost the whole package. To reiterate my previous point, leaf and yard waste will be mandatory to be composted once curbside composting is available in your borough. So all residents of Brooklyn and all residents of Queens are required to compost their leaf and yard waste. This just means to set it out separately from the trash in one of these 3 ways. How to compost food scraps and food soiled paper. This is the stuff that the critters want, so it is absolutely essential that it be in a bin when set out for collection. Much like leaf and yard waste, you can put it in one of our DSNY brown bins, or you can put it in your own labeled bin, 55 gallons or less, with a lid. The lid is very, very important in order to get all of those local benefits of rat and pest mitigation that I was talking about earlier. Something that's optional, that's up to you depending on how you want to manage your bin. We recommend that you use a bag to line it to help keep it clean. This is just feedback that we've gotten from residents that helps them. For lining the bin with a bag, you can use any bag you like. If you want to use a biodegradable bag, a paper bag, a clear plastic bag, or a black plastic trash bag, you're welcome to use any of those. I have heard from sanitation workers that they prefer the clear plastic bag, again, just so that they can see what it is and make sure it goes to the right spot. But you can use whatever you like or no bag at all. This last point is, again, if you're just choosing to use a bag, we recommend that you tie it closed before putting it on the curb for collection. Not required, just another barrier to keep the critters out while it's on the curb, away or outside of your house. All right, so that's the how. This is still a very new program, so there is still a lot of education that we need to do to get everybody aware and on board. And these are some of just the most common questions that we get. Since this is a remote format, we're not able to ask or answer these in person. So hopefully I address your main questions here. And if you have more, you can always reach out to 311. But number one, the question that we get the most is that composting attracts rats and other pests, and it doesn't. The truth is your trash does. This material in general does because it's tasty. It's it's mainly food. But we encourage people to use the curbside composting program, either our bins or to use their own bins as an act of deterrence for rats. Like I said, we know that containerizing is the way to go. So we are asking people to containerize their we call putrescible material with a compost bin. We've worked very closely with the Department of Health in the past, and they recommend starting the curbside composting program for buildings that are struggling with a rat problem. So in fact, it does the opposite. It's a mitigation tactic. Number two, people think curbside composting is complicated. And the truth is, if you've composted in the past with a community garden or in your backyard, it might have looked a little different in terms of what kind of stuff you can put in there. But for our program, you can put, like I said, anything from your yard, anything from your kitchen. Okay. Put it in your bin, put it up for collection. This includes stuff that maybe those smaller compost facilities like a community garden aren't able to take, like meat, bones, dairy, cooked food, leftovers, greasy foods, etc. Number four, we get this question a lot about whether you can put plastic bags in your brown bin, and you can. This question stems primarily from the curbside composting program that we had prior to COVID, where we asked residents to please use biodegradable bags. And that's because we didn't really have the facilities to sort out that amount of contaminants, that kind of contamination. But now we do. We heard feedback from the public that it was kind of a lot to ask, and we heard you. And now you can put plastic bags in your brown bin. It doesn't mean that you have to. You're welcome to continue to use biodegradable bags. I encourage you to. But if you'd like to use a plastic bag, you're more than welcome to. Lastly, we get this question a lot that people think compost just gets thrown out. I promise you we would not go through all of this trouble if we were only going to send it to the landfill. We see this compost as a resource. We want this material. Like I said, we're using it either as a substitute for natural gas, or we're using it as compost to refurbish and reinvigorate our soils here in the city. Um, if you see a truck coming by your block to pick up your compost and your trash and compost are going into the same truck, it will be a split bodied truck. And what that means, it's the same truck that can take two compartments worth of material. We primarily use these trucks on our recycling routes where they would collect in one side metal, glass, plastic, and cartons, and on the other clean paper and cardboard. But we're repurposing some of those for these composting routes to try to make them more efficient. So if you see them going into the same truck, don't worry. We will assure that it will go in each compartment to its appropriate endpoints. All right, so some tips for storing food waste in your home and managing your bin. Containerization is the name of the game inside your home and outside your home. While you're cooking, while you're preparing a meal, before you're able to bring your compostable material to your home's or your building's larger brown bin, we suggest containerizing it in some way in your kitchen. This can be with what you see here, which is called a kitchen container. We give these out, and they're also available from plenty of retailers online and in person. But you can also use a bag, a Tupperware, a takeout container, anything that you'd like, anything to kind of keep that material locked in. If you're new to composting and still trying to get the hang of it, maybe there's a little bit of a gross factor. Totally get it. It's very, very normal starting out. I was definitely a little nervous to start at the beginning. We encourage you to store the scraps in your freezer. And this prevents them from continuing to decay, possibly, causing odors in your home. I personally still do this mainly because I forget to take it out. And if I forget for, a month, I don't want it, sitting under my kitchen sink. So I keep them in the freezer so that they stay nice and sealed and odorless until I'm ready to take them to the bin. Speaking of the bin, here are some ways to take care of your building's bin or your house's bin. Number one, write your address on your bin. Our brown bins have a space on the side to write your address, but if you're using your own or one of ours, again, please use a Sharpie or any kind of sticker to label it as yours. Number two, it is a waste receptacle, so it's going to need regular cleaning as any other trash can would. This is where the bag comes in. If you'd like to use a plastic bag, biodegradable bag, etc., that definitely helps in keeping it clean and helping things from sticking to the bottom. And just another way to keep everything sealed in there is to tie the bag closed before putting it out on the curb, just as another barrier. And last, but definitely not least, I think one of the most important things about using your bin is keeping that lid closed whenever you are not actively putting compost in it. For folks in larger apartment buildings, that's mainly where I've heard concerns about this, where someone uses it and leaves the lid open, and that's a definite no-no, because then you don't get all the benefits for your building and your block of pest mitigation. So absolutely, whenever you are not actively putting compost in, close the lid and latch it shut. These are the set out laws that went into effect in April of 2023, so they're probably pretty familiar to you. But basically, what they say is we ask that no one put out bins, any kind of bin, trash bin, compost bin, recycling bin, any earlier than 6 p.m. for collection, and no bags earlier than 8 p.m. This is part, like I said, of a larger mission to containerize as much waste as possible, and also to keep trash out of the sidewalk during rush hour when we're all getting off of work. So if you're using a compost bin, it means you can set it out at 6 p.m. or later. That's just as early as it can go, and then bags as early as 8 p.m. If you have a bin for your food waste and a bag for your yard waste, we get the question, can I just put it out all at once? And unfortunately not. Bin at 6, bag at 8. This note down here references what I was talking about for the split body trucks, where half the truck picks up trash and half of the truck in the back compartments picks up compost. And what this is saying here is that we're asking you to not put out bulk trash items on your compost or recycling collection day. This is to ensure that we have enough space in the truck to pick it up and that we don't leave your item out on the curb. So if you have big trash items like a mattress or furniture, we just ask that you put it out on your other trash collection day that is not shared with your recycling and your compost collection day. In addition to keeping the bin itself clean, we ask that property managers managing this program please alert residents where the bins will be stored and download appropriate signage, decals, etc., or order education materials from us to get their building in line, get them all up to speed. We're happy to provide these materials. You can download them online or we can deliver them to you. And we can also come in person to do a Q&A, an info session with your tenant association or co-op board, where we're happy to do any of that kind of education and outreach. To find those materials to download or for us to deliver, you can go to nyc.gov/sanitation materials. There's also stuff like coloring books on there, so I definitely encourage you to check it out. And if you want someone in person from the department to attend an upcoming event that you're going to, for example, a community organization, if you're on your community board, if you're involved with a religious organization or you're having a block party, anything like that, anything that you think it would be helpful to have someone from the department talk about composting or recycling, you can go ahead and let us know at on.nyc.gov/event request. All right, the last part of this that I'm going to talk about is what we're doing to get the word out. Of course, in addition to this presentation here, we're trying to be in as many places as possible, and I think we can all agree that this program will only be a success if we're all on the same page on what's going on and how we're supposed to do it correctly. So some of the things that we did in Brooklyn and Queens that we plan to replicate in the boroughs going online in October are reaching out to as many individual buildings as possible. For small buildings, this meant canvassing, knocking on doors. We knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors in Brooklyn and Queens over the course of the past year. Myself, I've probably knocked on a couple hundred, if not a couple thousand at this point. So if you see me around, hello, hope your composting is going well. For the larger buildings, we're reaching out a little more directly because we know that knocking on doors maybe isn't the best way to talk to the super or whoever's managing trash on site. So we're emailing them, we're calling them, we're getting in touch with tenant organizations and property management companies. And we're also showing up in person as much as we can. We're going to info sessions held all around the city. We're showing up to meetings and hosting presentations and Q&As. We're popping up at gardens. We're popping up outside your grocery store. We're doing tabling. We're trying to be both available online and in person as many places as possible. But I think the most fun bit of outreach that we do are our giveaway events. So in Brooklyn and Queens, we hosted 40-pound bag giveaway events in every neighborhood in both of those boroughs. This meant that we were giving away locally made compost produced at our Staten Island compost facility on top of the old Fresh Kills landfill, produced from food scraps that we collected here in the city. This is one of those places that food scraps and yard waste go if they don't go to the Newtown Creek facility. So we're giving those away. Keep an eye out for the other boroughs. If you're interested in getting compost, we'll be doing these events in the other boroughs this year. We're also giving away brown bins to people who need them, giving away those kitchen containers that you saw earlier, 1-pound bags of compost, leaf bags, all kinds of stuff, really trying to get people set up for composting in their home and also showing you that this is the stuff that you made. We're creating a resource out of it and we're giving it back. This compost that we produce at our Fresh Kills facility, you can also pick up, you can buy if you're a private landscaper, and we give it out often to community gardens, to the parks department, DOE, etc. We're taking your food scraps and we want to give it back to you and more. Lastly, you'll probably be getting one of these in the mail if you don't already have service. We're sending something in the mail to everyone getting online to say, hey, FYI. We're also going to do a social media blitz. We're going to get on the radio. We're going to send ads in newspapers. You'll probably see us in the subway, in bus shelters, on those sort of Link NYC stands you see where you get free Wi-Fi. We're really trying to get in front of as many eyes as possible, but we know that it is a really, really tough task. We can't be everywhere at once. We can't possibly reach 8.5 million people in the next year. So that's where we're really counting on people who are participating in this program, who have come to our info sessions to share it with their friends, their family, to say, hey, curbside composting isn't that hard. It's just the stuff from your yard and your kitchen in a bin picked up once a week with your recycling. So thank you so much for coming to this presentation. If you would like someone from the department to come to your event, again, you can go to that event request website, or if you just search sanitation event request, it should pop up. Also, if you have questions for the outreach team, you can go to outreach@dsny.nyc.gov and send us an email. Thank you so much for coming. Happy composting to you all. Really excited to get this citywide and get everybody on board for this great, great service. And I can't wait to see the benefits that we'll start to see coming around the city for our methane emissions and to keep our neighborhoods clean as we get this program citywide. So thank you so much, and hope you have a great, great rest of your day.